Hey there, come closer to the fire and step with me into a winter so white that the world seems to have forgotten its edges. The air is sharp enough to make each breath feel like glass. Snow lies over the ground in a wide, quiet sheet. There is no fireplace waiting inside a stone house, no iron stove, no chimney, drawing smoke up into comfort. There is only cold, and people who know how to live beside it. They do not survive because they are stronger than winter. They survive because they understand it. A woman kneels in the snow and presses her bare hand to the crust. She listens through her fingers. The sound beneath her palm tells her what kind of storm came before and what kind may be coming. A hunter turns his face to the wind and reads its taste. Children move close to their mothers, wrapped in hides that hold the memory of animals and summer grass. Somewhere nearby, a shelter waits, low and careful, made of earth, bark, bone, hide, smoke, and patience. If this kind of quiet history helps you settle into the night, leave a like and subscribe so these low fire stories can keep finding their way back to you. Now let the room dim in your mind. The candle is small. The snow outside is endless. We are not here to fight the cold. We are here to learn how people once made peace with it. You stand among the first peoples of North America, long before the world of chimneys and fireplaces. The landscape is not one place, and that matters. Some people live where tundra rolls white and open beneath the sky. Some live in forests of pine, birch, cedar, spruce, and frozen streams. Some live on plains where the wind can cross miles without touching a wall. Some live near rivers that become roads when ice takes them. Each place teaches a different kind of survival. There is no single native winter. There are many winters, and many ways of answering them. For the Inuit and other Arctic peoples, warmth might mean a stone lamp burning seal oil with a small, steady flame. For people of the plains, it might mean buffalo hides layered thick around the body and shelter. For Haudenosaunee families in the eastern woodlands, it might mean a longhouse filled with relatives, smoke, storage, stories, and the slow pulse of communal fires. For earth lodge builders of the northern plains, it might mean packed walls of soil and sod, holding warmth inside while the outside air falls far below freezing. The source of heat is not always a flame. Sometimes warmth is a wall. Sometimes it is a skin. Sometimes it is 10 people breathing in the same dark room. Sometimes it is knowledge, carried quietly from one generation to the next, until the body knows what the mind never needs to explain. You notice the people around you moving with calm precision. No one rushes unless rushing is necessary. In deep cold, haste wastes breath, and breath wastes warmth. Every gesture has a reason. A hood is pulled forward before the wind turns. A mitten is tightened before fingers go numb. A child is turned away from the draft. A strip of hide is checked where snow might enter. These are not dramatic acts. They are the small grammar of winter. The snow underfoot speaks. At first it squeaks, high and dry, because the air is bitter. Later, when the sun lifts a little, The sound softens. The snow begins to clump, and the people know the day has changed. To someone unfamiliar, the white ground looks blank. To those who belong here, it is written everywhere. Wind marks, crust, powder, ice shine, dull new snow, drifts gathered along a bank, a hollow where an animal passed, a faint ripple showing the direction of the last storm. Honestly, I have always found this more impressive than any heroic tale. Heroism lasts a moment. This kind of attention lasts all winter. The woman who touched the snow rises. She says little. She does not need to explain every sign. Those around her have learned the same language in their own ways. The children are still learning. They watch the adults, copying how they step, how they lower their bodies in wind, how they keep their hands covered, how they read the sky without staring too long into brightness. The cold is dangerous, but it is also a teacher. A severe teacher. Not the sort who smiles often. More the sort who lets you make one mistake and then make sure you remember it for the rest of your life. A weak sun lowers toward the horizon. A pale gold coin sinking behind the trees. Blue shadow rises from the snow. The air smells faintly of pine, frozen water, animal hide, and distant smoke. Breath clouds together as people gather near the shelter. The clouds merge and vanish. For a moment, it looks as if the whole group is breathing one breath. That is another answer to winter. Togetherness. A person alone loses heat to the world. A group holds heat inside its own circle. The family becomes the fire. The camp becomes the hearth. Survival is a collective act. This does not mean winter is easy. People still freeze. People still hunger. Storms still take the careless, the unlucky, the exhausted, the young, the old. The cold does not become harmless because people understand it. Respect does not remove danger. It only teaches where to place your foot. The camp before you is quiet, but not empty. A hunter returns from the trees with meat wrapped against the cold. Others come to help without ceremony. The meat will feed people. The hide will become shelter or bedding or clothing. The sinew may become thread. Bones may become needles, tools, ornaments, or toys. Fat may become food, fuel, polish, sealant, or lamplight. Almost nothing is waste. Winter does not tolerate waste kindly. In summer, berries were dried. In autumn, hides were prepared. Meat was smoked, pounded, frozen, buried, cached, wrapped, guarded. Clothing was repaired before the storm season reached its teeth. Children were taught games that were also lessons. Stories were saved for the long nights when the world outside slowed. Winter survival began long before winter arrived. That is one of the central truths here. The warmest night is made months earlier. By the time snow closes around the camp, the work of survival has already been woven into clothing, stored in food, shaped into shelter, remembered in stories, and practiced in the muscles of every person who knows how to move through cold. You walk toward a shelter whose doorway is low. You must crouch to enter. That is not inconvenience. It is design. A low entrance keeps heat from escaping too quickly and forces wind to lose its pride before coming inside. The structure is made of local materials, perhaps bark and branches, perhaps poles and hide, perhaps sod and packed earth, depending on place and people. Whatever its form, it belongs to the land around it. You duck inside. The change is immediate. The cold is still present, but it has lost its sharpest edge. The air is close, warm with bodies, hides, stored earth, and a faint thread of smoke. The shelter does not feel hot. It feels possible. That is enough. Possible is a generous word in a frozen land. Your eyes adjust. The walls curve around you, layered and dark. Bark remembers storms. Poles remember trees. Hides remember animals. Clay or earth remembers the pressure of hands that packed it into place. The materials are not dead. They have a second life here, turning wind aside, holding human breath, keeping warmth from vanishing into the night. A child sits near the back with a carved bone figure, moving it through a little village made in the dirt. An elder repairs a seam by low light. A woman checks bedding made of grass, muds, and hides. Someone shifts a hanging skin near the smoke opening, adjusting the flow of air with a touch so practiced it looks casual. Nothing here is accidental. Even casual gestures have long history behind them. You listen to the shelter. It has a sound, a low breath of people, the soft scrape of hide, a tiny crackle from stones or coals, wind outside, softened by layers, snow sliding down the outer wall with a sigh. The whole structure seems to be thinking slowly around you. Some earth lodges of the northern plains could hold many people under one roof, with thick walls of earth and sod trapping warmth from bodies and small central fires. Reconstructed examples in archaeological study suggest that such structures could remain tolerable even in severe cold. The key was not endless flame. The key was insulation. Heat once made must be persuaded to stay. That is the genius repeated again and again. Do not waste the flame. Do not waste breath. Do not waste the animal. Do not waste the shape of the land. Use snow as a windbreak. Use earth as a blanket. Use hides as walls. Use low spaces to keep heat near the body. Use small smoke holes to let air move without surrendering everything to the sky. If the wind comes from one side, sleep away from it. If snow builds at the base, let it seal the gap. If the sun rises in the east, greet it with an entrance placed where morning can help. The shelter is not a machine, but it behaves like one in the old meaning of skill. It works because hands made it from observation. No blueprint, no thermometer, no modern word for ventilation. Yet someone learned where smoke gathers. Someone learned how heat pools. Someone learned that a smaller room warms faster, that earth steadies temperature, that snow can be wall as well as weather. A little humor rises in that thought. Modern people sometimes call old ways primitive while living in houses that become useless the instant a switch fails. These shelters had no switch to betray them. They only asked that you understand them. Outside, the wind lifts again. It pushes snow across the entrance. Inside, no one startles. The people have heard this voice before. A hide flap steers, then settles. The air remains close. The child with the carved figure glances up, then returns to play. The elder draws sinew through hide. The needle moves in and out, steady as breathing. Warmth here is not only temperature. It is trust. Trust in the shelter. Trust in the people who made it. Trust in the stored food. Trust in the hides wrapped around the body. Trust in the knowledge that says, this wind will pass, and if it does not, we know how to wait. Night deepens outside. The snow glows blue under the moon. Inside, the world becomes amber, brown, hide dark, shadow soft. You lower yourself onto layered grass and fur. The ground beneath you is not soft in any luxurious sense, but it is separated from your bones by knowledge. Muds, hides, air, dry plant matter, a small architecture under the sleeping body. You lie still. The shelter holds. The people around you breathe. No fireplace roars. No stone chimney pulls smoke upward. No single flame saves the room. Instead, 100 quieter things do their part. Earth, hide, breath, snow, oil, memory, patience. The camp does not defeat winter. It makes an agreement with it. And for this first night, inside this low, warm pocket carved from a frozen world, the agreement holds. The shelter is warmest when you stop expecting it to feel warm. That sounds strange, but it is true in places where winter owns the horizon. If you enter from bitter wind and expect the blaze of a modern room, you will think the shelter cold. But if you stand still, if you let your skin listen, if you stop asking for comfort and begin asking for survival, you feel what it has done. The air is not cutting. The wind is not touching your face. Breath stays near the body. The ground does not swallow heat all at once. The space has made cold slower. Slower cold can be lived with. Morning comes with a soft slide of snow from the roof. You wake under hides and grass mats, listening to the shelter settle around you. The air smells of smoke, earth, animal skin, dried plants, and the faint, oily warmth of a small lamp. No fireplace burns. Still, your hands are not numb. Your chest does not ache from the cold. The structure has held just enough warmth through the night. You sit up carefully. The doorway is low and dim. Light seeps through it in a pale line. The walls curve around the sleeping area, dark from use, layered with bark, branch, clay, grass, or hide. In some winter homes, animal bones form part of the frame. In others, wooden poles carry the weight. In others, earth itself is the main strength. Every region answers the same question with different materials. How do we keep life inside When the world outside wants to take heat away, you run your hand along the wall. It gives slightly under your palm. Not weak. Alive in the way earth packed by human hands can feel alive. The surface is cool, but not as cold as the open air. It has stored something. Heat from bodies. A little warmth from stones. The memory of yesterday. The wall does not create comfort. It slows loss. That is the secret behind so much winter design. Slow the loss. A buffalo hide teepee on the plains may look thin from a distance. A cone of poles and skins in an open white world. But come closer, and its intelligence appears. The cover is stretched with care. The entrance can be turned from the worst wind. Snow gathers around the base and seals drafts. Extra hides or liners can create a second inner layer, trapping air between skins. Smoke moves upward and out through the top, guided by flaps adjusted to the wind. What looks simple is a moving conversation between shelter and weather. An earth lodge speaks differently. It sits low and patient, partly belonging to the ground. Thick wooden beams hold a domed roof. Layers of grass, clay, salt, and earth cover the frame. The walls are heavy. The roof is heavy. But that heaviness is the point. Earth stores heat slowly and releases it slowly. Inside, a small fire or the warmth of many bodies can linger far longer than it would in a thin space. Some lodges could shelter dozens of people, turning community itself into insulation. A longhouse in the eastern woodlands stretches across the snow like a sleeping animal. Its frame of saplings is covered with bark. Families share the space. Fires burn along the center in some versions, smoke rising through openings above. The warmth is communal. So is the smoke. So are the stories. Privacy is thin, but winter does not reward solitude. Some shelters are made to move. Some are made to stay. A teepee can come down and travel with people and buffalo. An earth lodge can last years. Its roof growing grass in summer, like the land has decided to wear the house. A pit house can be entered through a low opening, hidden under snow, waiting in the earth. Each design belongs to a way of life, a rhythm of hunting, gathering, storing, trading, resting, and moving. You step outside. The cold strikes quickly, almost rude after the sheltered air. It bites the nose. It tightens the cheeks. The snow is bright enough to make you narrow your eyes. Around you, other shelters rise from the winter landscape. Some are low mounds, half swallowed by snow. Some stand in slender cones. Some stretch long beneath white roofs. Smoke lifts in thin lines, not from fireplaces, but from small central pits, lamps, vents, or openings managed with care. The camp looks quiet, but every shape is working. Low doors keep heat from rushing out. Mats and hides hang where air needs slowing. Snow piled along the base becomes a skirt against drafts. Roof angles shed snow, or hold just enough to add insulation. Smoke holes release what must leave and keep what can remain. Sleeping places are toward the back or near the warmest wall. not by accident, but by memory. You notice a woman adjusting a hide near an opening. She does not look up. Her hand moves with the certainty of someone who has done this through many winds. A little more open, and smoke clears. A little more closed, and heat stays. Too closed, and breathing becomes hard. Too open, and winter walks in smiling. Ventilation is a modern word. The skill is ancient. In some accounts, people used wet grass, fresh hides, tallow, or animal fat to seal cracks and reduce drafts. Such details may vary by group and by source, and we should be careful not to make every reported custom universal. Still, the principle is clear. Cracks matter. Air matters. A small leak can drain warmth from a room over hours. A hand sealing that leak may save more heat than a larger flame poorly held. A man nearby presses snow against the lower edge of a shelter. He shapes it with a flat tool in his gloved hand, building a low-packed ridge where the wind has begun to slip through. Snow is the enemy when it falls into the collar and melts. Snow is the ally when packed against a wall. The difference is knowledge. That is one of the quiet lessons repeated in the source. Winter is not one thing. Snow is not one thing. Cold is not one thing. Each can harm or help, depending on how it is read. By mid-morning, you follow a group toward a riverbank where the drifts rise higher. At first, you see only snow in a dark opening low to the ground. Then, someone lifts a covering and gestures for you to crouch. The entrance is small. You bend and step down into a passage that smells of soil, dry grass, and human breath. The wind disappears behind you. You are entering a house beneath the earth. Inside, the air is dim and close. The sharp edge of outside cold is gone. The walls curve inward, packed and lined with mats. Above, logs or poles hold the roof, covered by sod, soil, and snow. The shelter is part of the land itself. You can feel it. The earth is not a floor only. It is wall, roof, blanket, and memory. Some groups across the Northwest Plateau, subarctic regions, and other cold landscapes used pit houses or semi-subterranean homes in winter. The details differ by people and place, but the idea is beautifully direct. The ground holds a steadier temperature than the exposed air. Dig into it, cover the roof, control the entrance, and the body lives inside a gentler climate. The ground is the oldest blanket. You place your palm on the packed earth wall. It feels cool, but even. Not biting, not hostile. It has a slowness that the air outside lacks. Wind cannot tear through it. Snow cannot easily enter it. Sound is absorbed by it. Voices inside stay close and intimate, as if the house asks people to speak with care. A small lamp burns near the center. It may be stone, clay, or another local material, filled with animal fat or oil, with a wick of moss, bark fiber, or plant matter. The flame is low and steady. It is not a roaring fire. It does not throw wild shadows. It glows like a captured star, patient and economical. Beside it, a pot warms. Steam rises faintly, carrying the smell of fish, roots, or grain if available. The air is oily, earthy, and alive. Children sit near the wall, playing with small carved figures. Their voices are low because the house makes loud sound unnecessary. A mother stirs food. An elder tells someone to move a mat, not urgently, just enough to improve the airflow near the vent. The vent shaft draws smoke upward. It is imperfect, but it works. A flat stone might be shifted to control the draft. A side passage may act like an airlock, slowing gusts before they reach the living space. Everything here is simple until you try to design it. Then it becomes brilliant. There may be storage pits in the floor, covered with bark or mats. Inside them are dried berries, smoked fish, roots, tools, seed, or items meant to wait out the season. The house is not only shelter, it is pantry, memory, workshop, and sleeping body. It gathers the year into one dark, warm room. You sit near the wall and listen. The silence is not empty. It is thick with earth. Outside, winter is all glare and cutting air. Inside, the world has become rounded. Breath moves slowly. Smoke lifts. Mats rustle. A child laughs once, then muffles the sound into a hide. The whole space feels like being inside the chest of the land. Some early observers wrote about such dwellings with surprise, as if they had expected misery and found instead a difficult kind of comfort. Modern builders have a name for some of the same principles. Earth sheltering. Use the ground to stabilize temperature. Use mass to slow change. Use local materials. Use less fuel. The old winter builders did not need the modern phrase. They knew the feeling in the body. The shelter teaches humility. A thin wall lets winter decide the hour. A thick earth wall lets people sleep. You emerge later into the light. The snow seems brighter after the underground dimness. Cold air cuts across your face, but now you understand the contrast better. The shelter was not warm because it conquered winter. It was warm because it removed wind, slowed heat loss, concentrated bodies, managed smoke, and trusted the earth. A group of people repair a surface near another lodge. Their tools are bone, stone, wood, and hand. A pole is replaced. A hide is tightened. A mat is shaken, free of frost. Nothing is done carelessly, though no one moves with the stiffness of ceremony. Maintenance is ordinary, and ordinary work is what keeps the shelter alive. You notice an entrance facing east. Morning light enters it more kindly than it would from another direction. Sunlight dries damp edges. It lifts the spirit. It reminds the body that the world has not become only winter. Design here is not only practical, it is relational. The house faces light. The people face season. The shelter sits where wind, snow, sun, earth, animals, and human habits can meet without destroying one another. That may sound poetic, but it is also engineering. By evening, you return to the shelter. The sky lowers. The camp grows blue again. Snow gathers at the base of walls. A thin smoke line rises and disappears. Someone hangs a hide more firmly across the entrance. Someone checks a lamp. Someone presses a hand to the earth wall, not out of romance, but to feel dampness, temperature, the mood of the house. Inside, the air is close again. You lie back on layered mats and hides. The roof makes a faint sound under snow, a slow creak that travels through wood into earth. It should frighten you, perhaps, but it does not. It is the sound of weight being held. The world outside remains white and dangerous. Inside, the shelter answers in layers. Bark, bone, hide, grass, clay, salt, snow, earth, breath, fire held small, smoke guided upward, warmth persuaded to stay. You close your eyes and feel the lessons settle. These homes were not primitive shelters from cold. They were conversations with cold. They did not shout. They whispered. They made warmth by understanding where heat goes, how wind enters, how bodies breathe, how earth remembers, and how a doorway can decide the fate of a night. The candle in our room burns lower now, but the shelter in the story holds. And beyond its walls, another kind of shelter waits, not built around the body, but worn upon it, stitched from hide, fur, sinew, and the memory of many winters. Clothing begins long before the cold reaches the skin. It begins with the animal, with the hunt, with thanks spoken or held quietly in the chest, with hands that know how to remove a hide without wasting it, with scraping, stretching, smoking, softening, sewing, repairing, and storing. A winter garment is not only something worn, it is a long chain of labor wrapped around the body. You stand near a sheltered place where hides are being worked in pale winter light. The air is cold enough to make breath visible, but the people working do not hurry. A hide is stretched over a frame. Its edges are held tight. A woman moves a scraper across it with steady pressure. Not too hard, not too light. The sound is soft and rough at once, a patient rasp that seems to belong to winter itself. Each stroke removes what must not remain. Each stroke prepares the skin to become shelter. Her hands are strong, not dramatic, practical, the kind of strength that comes from doing necessary work many times. Beside her, sinew has been cleaned and dried. It will become thread. Bone needles rest nearby, small and pale. A child watches, trying not to look bored, because children everywhere, even in the most ancient and practical scenes, sometimes believe the important lesson is taking too long. Then the child reaches out and touches a piece of softened fur, and the lesson becomes clearer. It is warm even in the hand. That is the second shelter of winter. Not the lodge around you, but the lodge you wear. A person crossing snow in deep cold cannot carry a house, but clothing can carry the idea of a house. It must turn wind. It must trap air. It must shed snow. It must keep moisture from lingering against the skin. It must move with the body. It must be repaired. It must not waste material. It must be made by people who have learned the habits of cold through generations. In some Arctic clothing traditions, a parka might be made with the fur turned inward to hold warm air close to the body, and another layer outward to resist wind and snow. Caribou skin is famous for its warmth because the hairs are hollow, holding insulating air inside them. In other regions, buffalo robes, rabbit skin blankets, beaver linings, bird skins, deer hide, and other materials answered the same winter question in different voices. How do you keep the body alive while the world tries to draw heat away? The answer is not thickness alone. It is structure. Loose enough to hold air, close enough to keep wind from entering, long enough to cover wrists, ankles, and neck. Hooded enough to guard the face, layered enough that one wet place does not become disaster. Sewn so seams do not invite snow. Shaped so movement remains possible. A robe can be beautiful, but beauty is never separate from use. Fringe along an edge may shed water. Pattern may carry identity. Color may help the hunter belong to snow, forest, or shadow. Beadwork and quill work may tell of family, place, shill, and memory. A garment is warmth, but also personhood. It says who made you, who clothed you, where you belong, what animals gave their bodies, what hands kept you alive. You watch a hood being trimmed with fur. The fur edge curves around the face, forming a soft halo. It is not there only to look fine, though it does. It changes the air around the mouth and nose. It slows wind. It catches breath. It creates a small pocket of gentler air before the cold reaches the skin. A face without such protection can burn in minutes. A face guarded by fur can look into weather long enough to travel. Honestly, that small fur halo may be one of the most elegant inventions in winter history. It is quiet, beautiful, and absolutely serious. A mitten lies open on a hide. Not a glove. A mitten. Fingers survive better together. Separate fingers lose heat faster. A mitten lets them share warmth inside one chamber, like a tiny shelter for the hand. Some mittens are made with fur inside, some with outer hide and inner lining, some with extra layers for travel. A cord may connect them, so one is not lost in snow. Losing a mitten in deep cold can become more than inconvenience. It can become danger. A maker checks the seam. Sinew thread swells when damp, helping close the stitch holes. That is the kind of detail winter respects. The thread does not only hold pieces together, it changes with weather. It tightens the barrier when needed most. Bone needle, sinew thread, hide, fur, breath. Each part small. Together, a life. A child is wrapped in clothing slightly too large, perhaps made to last more than one season, perhaps passed from another child. The child lifts both arms and laughs because the sleeves hang like small animal tails. Someone nearby smiles. Then adjust the cuffs so snow will not enter. Warmth and humor can share the same moment. Winter may be stern, but children have never been very respectful of stern things. The child steps into snow. The garment changes shape around movement. The hem brushes powder. The hood frames the cheeks. A little cloud of breath escapes. The child turns, clumsy but warm, and the adults watch not only with affection, but with assessment. Is the seam holding? Are the wrists covered? Does the hood close enough? Can the child move without falling? Clothing is tested by life, not by appearance. In some places, grass, moss, or soft plant fibers could be used as insulation. Stuffing, bedding, or absorbent material, especially in footwear or infant care. Moss in a cradle or carrying pouch can be changed when damp. Grass in a moccasin can help protect the foot. Dry plant matter becomes another borrowed summer stored against winter. Again, the pattern returns. Summer becomes winter warmth. The sewing continues. A robe made from many small rabbit skins might require patient joining. Piece after piece, a mosaic of softness. Rabbit skin blankets could be exceptionally warm, though fragile compared with larger hides. Beaver fur might line garments where damp cold threatens. Buffalo robes on the plains could wrap a sleeper or rider in great heavy warmth. The hide side out, the fur side in, blocking wind and holding the body close to itself. Each animal teaches a different lesson. Caribou gives hollow hair. Buffalo gives weight and breadth. Rabbit gives softness. Beaver gives dense warmth against wet. Bird skins can give delicate insulation. No material is universal because no winter is universal. The people know their place, and the place chooses the wardrobe as much as the people do. Some scholars discuss whether certain clothing ideas spread through ancient migration routes, Arctic trade, intermarriage, or independent invention. The careful answer is often a mixture. Humans facing similar cold may discover similar solutions. Humans meeting across landscapes may share and refine them. What matters in the story is not claiming one origin for all, but seeing the intelligence in every stitch. You kneel near the worker and watch her hand pass the needle through hide. The motion is small, repeated, nearly silent. Pull through, tighten, smooth the seam, check the edge, pull through again. Her breath clouds in the air. The hide rests across her knees. The thread catches briefly, and she frees it with a movement so practiced it does not interrupt the rhythm. This is how warmth is made. Not in the moment of wearing alone, but in the hour of sewing, the day of scraping, the season of preparation, the childhood spent watching, the elder correcting the hand that cuts too close, the memory of the last storm when a seam failed and snow entered at the wrist. A garment carries warnings. Do not leave the neck open. Do not let sweat soak the inner layer. Do not stand too long after hard movement. Do not step into overflow ice without checking. Do not sleep in damp clothing if you can help it. Do not trust sun on snow to mean warmth. Do not lose the mitten. These rules are not written in a book near the fire. They are written in bodies. Travelers learn to open clothing slightly before overheating, because sweat can become deadly when the body stops moving. Moisture steals heat. A person can freeze inside excellent clothing if that clothing becomes wet and the wind finds it. So warmth requires discipline. Keep dry. Vent at the right time. Close again before the cold enters. Brush snow off before it melts. Change liners if you can. Dry garments near heat, but not too close to flame. Clothing is not passive protection. It is an active relationship with weather. You see a pair of boots or moccasins being prepared. The soles are thickened. The seams checked. Extra grass or moss may be placed inside for warmth and to manage moisture. In some regions, snowshoes will carry the body across deep snow, but the foot still needs its own shelter. A cold foot can stop a journey. A wet foot can turn a safe path into a danger. The maker presses the toe area, feeling for weakness. Her face is calm, almost unreadable. But the work is full of care. If the stitch fails, someone may suffer far from shelter. If the sole wears thin, the cold will know. If the binding loosens, snow will enter. A garment is not just clothing. It is trust placed on another person's hands. That is why beauty in these objects matters. It does not make them less practical. It shows that survival was not meant to be ugly. A pattern sewn into hide, a line of beads, a careful fringe, a bit of color. These are not childish extras. They keep identity alive in the cold. They say, we are not only enduring, we are still ourselves. The fire lowers in the working place, but the hands continue. The hides move from frame to garment, from animal to human, from hunted body to living body. It can feel dark if you think only of taking. But in many indigenous traditions, animals were treated as relatives, teachers, and gears, not as objects without spirit. Practices of thanks, restraint, ritual, and use of the whole body helped frame survival as relationship. These practices varied widely, and we should not flatten them into one universal custom. But the broad respect for animal life appears again and again. The garment holds that respect. Every fur edge is a reminder that warmth came from another being. Every seam is a small treaty with loss. You step outside again, wrapped now in the idea of this second shelter. The cold meets the outer layer and slows. The fur around the face softens the wind. The mittened hands remain together, fingers sharing a small dark room of heat. Breath gathers briefly near the hood, then vanishes in white air. The snow is still dangerous, but the body is no longer bare before it. You walk a few steps. The garment moves with you, creaking faintly, rushing at the thighs, holding warmth in invisible pockets. At first, you feel the bulk. Then, after a while, you feel the freedom it gives. Because the clothing is heavy only compared with comfort. Compared with freezing, it is wings. The people around you continue their tasks. One tightens a hood. One shakes snow from a robe. One checks a child's cuff. One laughs when a mitten hangs from its cord like a sleeping animal. Life continues inside the weather. No fireplace follows them into the snow. The clothing does. That is the lesson. Warmth can be worn. Shelter can bend at the knees. A house can have sleeves, a hood, and seams that swell against the storm. As evening returns, the camp grows blue again. The workers gather hides, tools, sinew, scraps, and needles. Nothing useful is left to vanish under snow. The repaired garments are hung or folded. The children are called closer. Smoke rises from low shelters. A lamp waits to be lit. The first protection was the shelter. The second is the clothing. And now the night will show another secret. That heat can sleep inside stone, fat, wick, and earth, released slowly, carefully, without the roar of a wasteful flame. Night returns with a blue edge. The shelters darken against the snow, and the wind lowers itself into a steady voice. Inside, no one builds a roaring fireplace, because a roaring fire is hungry. It eats wood. It throws heat upward. It demands air. It can fill a shelter with smoke if handled poorly. In deep winter, the better question is often not how to make the largest flame, but how to keep the smallest warmth alive for the longest time. So the people turn to slower heat. Stone, fad, oil, earth. A shallow pit has been prepared near the center of a shelter. Smooth stones rest beside it, gathered earlier from a riverbed or exposed ground, chosen for their shape and their patience. Not every stone is safe for heating. Some can crack or burst if water is trapped inside them. People know which stones behave well, which hold heat, which must be avoided. This knowledge does not announce itself loudly. It simply prevents disaster. A stone is set near coals. It darkens as it warms. At first, nothing seems to happen. Then a faint heat begins to gather around it. Snow, brushed from a boot, falls near its edge and gives a tiny hiss. A child leans closer, then is gently pulled back. Warm things invite carelessness, and winter has already enough ways to injure a hand. The heated stones are moved with sticks or tools, not bare fingers. One is placed into a hollow lined with bark, moss, earth, or other material, depending on the use. Another is tucked beneath layers where it can release warmth slowly. The stone does not glow like fire. It does not entertain the eyes. It works in silence. That is its strength. Thermal mass is a modern phrase, but the old understanding is simple. Some things drink heat and give it back slowly. Stone does this. Earth does this. Thick walls do this. A shelter that uses such materials is not chasing warmth in a wild circle. It is storing it, persuading it to remain. You place your hand near a warmed stone and feel the difference. The heat is low, steady, almost shy. It does not leap out. It rests in the air around your palm. If the stone is buried lightly, The ground nearby becomes less hostile. Feet placed near it feel a gradual easing. A sleeping place close to such hidden heat can become more bearable through the long hours after visible flame has faded. Some accounts describe heated stones used under bedding, wrapped for travel, or placed in containers to warm small spaces. Practices varied by region and situation, and we should be careful not to imagine the same method everywhere. Still, the principle appears again and again. Hold heat in something that will not vanish when the flame lowers. A woman adjusts moss over a warm place. Her hand moves lightly, testing. Too much covering, and the heat is trapped away. Too little, and it escapes too fast, or burns what should not burn. The correct amount is learned, not guessed. Learned from elders, from mistakes, from nights when the cold lasted longer than expected. A little steam rises when damp moss meets warmth. It smells green, earthy, and faintly sweet, like summer hidden under snow. That is how this whole winter world feels after a while. Summer hidden in materials, grass in mats, berries in storage, animal fat in lamps, wood in coals, heat in stone, memory in every technique. A lamp is lit nearby. It is small, perhaps made of stone, clay, or shell, depending on place. In Arctic regions, soapstone lamps burning seal oil were essential, giving light, heat, and a way to cook or melt snow in places where wood was scarce. Elsewhere, animal fat, tallow, or other oils could feed low flames in different kinds of lamps. A wick of moss, cotton grass, bark fiber, or plant material draws the fuel upward. The flame appears, modest and golden. No drama, no crackling blaze. Just a little light steadying the room. You watch it tremble. The flame is shaped by breath in the shelter, by the placement of the wick, by the thickness of the oil. It gives less heat than a big fire, but it uses far less fuel, and in some landscapes, fuel is the true measure of life. A low lamp that burns for hours can matter more than a bright flame that dies quickly. People gather around it without crowding. The lamp makes faces visible. The curve of a cheek, the edge of a hood, a needle moving through hide, the shine of a child's eye. It lets work continue after sunset. It keeps darkness from becoming complete. It may warm a small space just enough to let fingers move. In an Arctic snow house or winter dwelling, such a lamp could do astonishing work. The snow walls reflect light. The small flame warms the air. The interior may remain near freezing or slightly above, which sounds cold until you remember the outside may be far below. A difference of a few degrees can become the border between danger and endurance. Warmth is relative. A modern person might call the shelter cold. A person who has stepped in from the storm calls it mercy. The smell of the lamp is oily and dense. Seal oil, fish oil, rendered fat, tallow, each has its own scent. It clings to clothing, hair, hides, and memory. It is not the scent of luxury, It is the scent of survival converted into flame. Animal life becoming light. Food becoming heat. Fat becoming the small sun of a winter room. Fat is one of winter's deepest treasures. It feeds the body, stores energy, waterproofs tools, softens hides, polishes wood, seals cracks, and burns. Lean meat alone is not enough in severe cold. The body needs dense fuel. In some places, people prized it as much as meat, sometimes more. To waste it would be almost unthinkable. You see a small portion melted carefully, not rushed, not spilled. It is stirred, strained, stored, or added where needed. A little goes into a lamp. A little may be saved for food. A little used on leather or wood. The people know its value by the way they handle it. Nothing careless. Nothing tossed aside because the hand is tired. In this world, warmth has many forms. The heat you eat, the heat you wear, the heat you sleep beside, the heat hidden in stone, the heat glowing in a wick, the heat sealed by snow packed around a shelter base, the heat preserved because someone noticed a draft and closed it before dark. The source emphasizes that native winter survival was never one trick. That is worth repeating softly. No single invention explains it. No single image, no single shelter, no single garment, no single lamp. It was a system of small, exact answers, each one supporting the next. A low flame by itself is not enough, but place it inside an insulated shelter, among bodies wrapped in hides, with stored food, dry bedding, managed airflow, and people who understand when to sleep and when to move. And the small flame becomes powerful. It is not the size of the fire. It is the intelligence around it. The night deepens. Someone places heated stones under a layer near a sleeping area. A child stretches a foot toward the warmth and is told to wait, then allowed closer when the stone is covered safely. The child smiles with the absolute seriousness of someone discovering that the earth can be kind. An elder sits near the lamp, hands folded, letting the low heat ease stiff fingers. The flame throws a small circle on the shelter wall. The circle moves whenever the wick trembles. Shadows of hands and tools pass through it. For a while, the shelter becomes a quiet theater of survival. Not performance for strangers, only necessary movements made visible by light. A seam is repaired. A strip of hide is trimmed. A story begins in a low voice, then pauses while someone adjusts the lamp wick. The wick must be managed. Too long, it smokes. Too short, it gives little light. The person tending it uses a small tool or fingers protected by skill, coaxing the flame into balance. Even fire must be taught manners. The thought is almost funny. A flame is a terrible guest if ignored. It smokes, eats, leaps, dies, or burns what should not burn. But a tended flame, a small, disciplined flame, can sit all night like a patient companion. Outside, wind brushes snow against the shelter. Inside, The lamp continues. A warmed stone continues. The people continue. Some practices around heated rocks cross into ceremony, especially in sweat lodges, where stones become carriers of heat, breath, steam, prayer, and renewal. That world will come later. Here, for now, the stone is quieter. It is simply a heart buried near the sleeping place, holding yesterday's fire for the body that must last until morning. You lie near it. The warmth reaches one side first. Low, steady. You do not feel hot. You feel defended. The cold floor has lost some of its hunger. The shelter walls hold close. The lamp softens the darkness. The air smells of oil, hide, moss, smoke, and snow brought in on clothing. A person turns the stone carefully, once, or shifts the covering so heat moves more evenly. The act is small, but everyone near it benefits. This is another form of shared warmth. Someone tends the stone, and 3 people sleep better. Someone trims the wick, and the room keeps light. Someone saves fat, and the lamp burns longer. Survival is rarely private here. You think of fireplaces again, those later symbols of indoor comfort. A fireplace gives a place to gather. Yes, but it also sends much heat up the chimney. It demands fuel. It belongs to a certain kind of house. In this winter world, people often learn to use less visible forms of heat with greater care. The warmth is not dramatic, but it is not primitive. It is precise. Stone does not boast. Oil does not roar. Moss does not call attention to itself. Yet together, they help carry people through nights that could otherwise close over them. The lamp flame lowers a little. The tender adjusts it. A thin line of smoke rises, then clears. The shelter settles. The child near the covered stone grows quiet. The elder's hands relax. Someone near the entrance checks that the flap is secure and that air can still move. Too tight, and smoke becomes trouble. Too open, and heat is lost. Balance again. Always balance. That is what the cold teaches. Hold warmth, but let breath move. Cover the stone, but do not smother it. Feed the flame, but do not waste oil. Seal the shelter, but do not trap smoke. Rest, but remain aware. The night becomes a lesson in measured things. You let your eyes follow the lamp until the flame blithers. The small light reflects on a polished tool, on the curve of a bowl, on the edge of a hide. Each reflection is weak, but together they make the room visible. Enough to mend. Enough to feed a child. Enough to see where the sleeping place begins. Enough. That word returns often in hard winters. Not abundance. Enough. After a while, the body stops asking for more. Not because more would be unwelcome, but because wanting too much keeps the mind awake. The body learns to receive the exact mercy given: a warm stone near the feet, a low lamp near the wall, a shelter that holds, a little oil still in reserve, the knowledge that someone will tend the wick if it falters. You close your eyes. The darkness behind them is not empty. It glows faintly from the lamp. It warms faintly from stone. It smells of animal fat and moss. It holds voices low enough to become part of sleep. Outside, the snow keeps falling. Inside, heat moves slowly from stone to earth, from lamp to air, from body to hide, from knowledge to night. No great blaze saves the camp. Only many small hearts of warmth, guarded with care. The warmest place in camp is not always beside a flame. Sometimes it is under a hide, between two sleeping bodies, where breath gathers in the dark and refuses to leave. Sometimes it is beside a dog who has worked all day and now curls close enough for its warmth to matter. Sometimes it is in the quiet circle of a family lying near one another, each body becoming part of a shelter that no hand can build alone. The night has deepened. Outside, snow presses against the shelter, and wind moves across the world with a long white voice. Inside, the lamp is low. The covered stones still hold a little warmth. Hides are layered over sleeping places. People settle close, not carelessly, not romantically, but with the old practical tenderness of those who understand that warmth shared is warmth multiplied. A child is placed near the center. An elder rests where the draft cannot reach easily. Adults take the outer places, not always because it is comfortable, but because the arrangement makes sense. The strongest bodies guard the colder edges. The smallest and oldest bodies receive the warmer middle. No one needs to explain this every night. The pattern has been taught by hands, by mothers, by grandmothers, by winter itself. You lie beneath thick hides and listen. The air under the covering is different from the air in the shelter. Closer, softer, warmed by breath. It smells faintly of animal skin, smoke, dried grass, human hair, oil, and the long use of winter bedding. It is not the scent of luxury. It is the scent of life held close. A shoulder touches yours. The pressure is slight, but the warmth is real. At first, the mind notices the closeness. Then the body accepts it. In such cold, space can be dangerous. Empty space steals heat. A sleeping circle protects heat. This is simple physics, but it is also kinship. People turn toward one another because the body knows what the heart often learns later, that survival is easier when warmth has somewhere to return. Honestly, I think this is one of the quietest forms of wisdom in the whole winter world. A person does not need to say, "I will keep you alive." Sometimes they only stay close. The hides above you are heavy. Caribou hide, buffalo robe, deer hide, bear skin, rabbit skin, blanket. Each belongs to its own region and people, each with its own kind of warmth. A buffalo robe can feel like a wall of living memory. A caribou skin can trap air in hollow hairs. A rabbit skin blanket can be soft and deeply warm, if carefully made and protected. The body learns the character of each material the way a singer learns the character of a song. Beneath the bedding, moss, grass, pine boughs, reeds, or mats may separate the sleepers from the cold ground. Raised sleeping platforms are used in some shelters, keeping bodies away from damp earth and allowing air to move beneath. In other places, thick layers of plant matter and hides do the work. The idea remains the same. Lift the body from cold. Trap air. Keep dry. Share warmth. Outside, the storm presses. Inside, the sleeping group holds. The dog near your feet sighs. It is not a pet in the modern soft sense. Though affection may be strong, it is a companion, warning system, worker, hunter, puller, heater, and sometimes the difference between returning and disappearing into weather. In many indigenous communities, dogs played vital roles in winter travel and camp life. They carried loads, pulled sleds in some regions, guarded camps, warned of danger, and slept close when cold required every available source of warmth. The dog shifts. Its fur brushes the edge of the bedding. Its breath smells of meat, snow, and animal patience. A child half wakes and places a small hand against its back, then falls asleep again. The dog does not object. Perhaps it has learned, like everyone else, that winter is less lonely when bodies agree to be warm together. Some accounts from outsiders misunderstood communal sleeping, seeing only crowding where there was design, or poverty where there was knowledge. That is a common error. People often judge an old practice by the standards of their own house, their own bed, their own idea of comfort. But a shelter full of sleeping bodies beneath hides is not disorder. It is a heat system. It is a family structure. It is a map of care. The room grows quieter. Breath becomes the main sound. Human breath, dog breath, wind breath beyond the wall. The three answer one another until the shelter feels like a small chest rising and falling under snow. Then, before dawn, another kind of heat enters the story. Not for ordinary sleep, for cleansing, for recovery, for the body and spirit after long cold. A sweat lodge stands nearby, low and dark against the snow. Its frame is often made from bent willow or other flexible wood, covered with hides, mutts, blankets, or earth, depending on tradition and place. The shape is close to the ground, rounded, intimate, like a small night built by hands. Beside it, stones are heated in a fire until they hold the deep inner heat of flame. The stones are sometimes called grandfathers in many traditions. Though practices and meanings differ widely, that word carries respect. Stone has age. Stone has patience. Stone has been here longer than any person breathing tonight. To carry heat into stone is to ask an old thing to hold fire for a while. People enter the lodge carefully. The outside cold remains behind them. Inside, darkness gathers at once. The air is close. Knees bend. Bodies sit near the earth. The hot stones are brought in, glowing faintly, breathing heat without flame. Herbs may be placed on them. Cheddar, sage, sweetgrass, or other plants, according to tradition and place. Water touches stone. Steam rises. It rolls through the dark like a living animal. The first breath is heavy and hot. It opens the chest. Sweat begins at the forehead, then the neck, then the back. The cold that had lived in the bones all day begins to loosen. Muscles soften. Thoughts slow. Songs or prayers may be spoken. The voice in such a place is not performance. It is part of the heat, part of the breath, part of the way people remember that survival is not only staying alive, but returning to balance. Some scholars and native traditions describe sweat lodges as ceremonial spaces, places of purification, healing, prayer, preparation, or renewal. Others note that heat therapy has practical physical effects too. We should not separate those meanings too sharply. In a world where body, land, spirit, and community are woven together, warmth can be medicine and ceremony at the same time. The steam thickens. A person inhales and lets the breath out slowly. Another sings. Someone pours water again. The stones hiss softly. The smell of cedar or sage rises. Sweat moves down skin and carries with it the day, the stiffness, the cold, the weariness of travel. There is darkness, but not emptiness. There is heat, but not violence. The lodge becomes a place where winter is briefly reversed. Outside, everything tightens. Inside, pores open. Outside, breath turns to frost. Inside, breath becomes steam. Outside, silence can frighten. Inside, silence rests between songs. After a time, the entrance opens. Cold air enters like a bright blade. People step out into snow, steaming, breathing hard, alive in a sharpened way. The shock is intense, but it is not simply discomfort. The body feels the boundary between heat and cold with startling clarity. Snow underfoot. Steam rising from shoulders. Stars overhead. The world enormous and clean. The cold has not been conquered. It has been met, balanced, answered. You stand outside the lodge and watch the steam lift from bodies into the night. It looks almost like spirits leaving, then returning, because the people remain, laughing softly, speaking quietly, wrapping themselves again in robes. The mood after such heat can be solemn, or light, or both. Human beings often become more honest after they have sweated in darkness together. The camp settles again. Those who return to the sleeping shelter carry warmth under their skin. It will not last forever, but it changes the night. Muscles remember the heat. Breath feels deeper. The cold outside seems less like an enemy and more like a force waiting for respect. This is one more answer to the question of winter survival. Not one answer for all peoples. Not one practice everywhere, but a pattern of wisdom. Heat is not only fuel. Heat is stored in stone, held in hide, shared between bodies, made by food, released through steam, preserved by shelter, protected by knowledge, renewed by ceremony. No fireplace is required for warmth to have meaning. The child near the dog sleeps deeply now. The elder breathes in a steady rhythm. The hides have formed a dark, warm cave around the sleepers. Outside, snow continues to fall. It covers tracks. It smooths the camp. It makes the world appear empty, though it is full of lives carefully protected. You close your eyes. Under the hides, breath gathers. Near the wall, the dog shifts once more. Somewhere beyond the shelter, the stones from the lodge cool slowly in the snow, giving their last warmth back to the night. Later, when the worst of the night has passed, the closeness remains in the body as memory. It teaches without speaking. The child learns where to sleep, how to turn the shoulder, how to tuck the knees, how to share warmth without kicking away the hide. The dog learns the same map. The elders know which person shivers first, which child rolls toward the cold edge, which sleeper needs another robe before the wind shifts. This is knowledge made from attention. No one writes it on bark. No one calls it science while the snow falls. Yet it is science in the old living sense. Observation repeated until it becomes dependable. Which hides breathe too much? Which bedding stays dry? Which sleeping place receives cold from the entrance? Which dog settles quietly? Which elder should not be placed near the draft? All of this belongs to the winter mind of the household. The warmth under the hides is therefore not only heat from flesh, it is heat from memory. Heat from choosing the right place. Heat from correcting the arrangement before danger appears. Heat from every winter that taught the family how not to waste a body. A final sound comes from outside, the soft fall of snow sliding from a branch. No one rise. The shelter is secure. The sleeping circle has tightened. The lamp has lowered. The stone is cooling. The dog is still. The child is warm. These are the quiet facts by which the night permits rest. Then sleep comes again, not as a fall, but as a settling. The body believes the arrangement. The warmth is not perfect, but it is shared. The cold waits outside the circle, patient as ever. Yet for this hour it has been kept at the edge. The camp sleeps, not because winter is gentle, but because generations have learned how to make a human circle inside it. Long before the deepest cold arrives, winter food is already being hidden. That is the part a traveler might miss. They may see the snowbound camp and think survival begins when the storm begins. But the people here know better. Winter is prepared in summer light, in autumn wind, in the season of fish, berries, roots, hunts, smoke, drying racks, baskets, bits, and careful hands. By the time the land is white, warmth has already been stored in the form of food. Food is heat waiting to enter the body. Ad-dum. You follow two figures away from the shelter toward a low rise under snow. They move with certainty, though the place looks blank. A few bent twigs mark something to the trained eye. A stone sits slightly wrong. A memory belongs to that place, held not only in the mind of one person, but in the root, the gesture, the story of where things were placed before the cold sealed the ground. They kneel. Snow is brushed away. a covering is lifted. Beneath it, hidden from animals and weather, is a cache. It may be lined with bark, grass, moss, stone, hide, or frozen earth, depending on place and food. In some northern climates, permafrost becomes a natural freezer. In other places, pits are dug where the cold can hold food steady, but damp and scavengers must be managed carefully. Some caches are raised. Some are underground. Some are hidden far from camp so that one loss does not become total loss. The method depends on land, season, and danger. Inside are bundles, dried fish, smoked meat, roots, berries, perhaps fat wrapped and protected, perhaps fermented foods stored in skins, baskets, bladders, or earth. The smell that rises is strong, concentrated, not always pleasant to a stranger, but deeply reassuring to those who know what it means. It means the summer did not vanish. It means autumn work still speaks. It means the body may have fuel when snow closes the paths. A bundle is lifted with care. No one takes more than needed. The cache is not a treasure chest to be emptied in excitement. It is a calendar. It must stretch. It must answer not only today, but the next storm, the next hunger, the guest who arrives unexpectedly, the child who needs more, the hunter who returns exhausted, the elder whose body must not be allowed to weaken too far. Winter storage is a form of memory with consequences. Pemmican belongs here too, in many plains and northern traditions, and later in trade networks far beyond its origin. Made from dried meat, pounded fine, mixed with rendered fat, and sometimes berries, it is dense, durable, and powerful. A little can carry a person through hard travel. It is not just food. It is compressed labor. A whole animal, a whole season, a whole set of skills pressed into a form that can ride in a bag through snow. You hold a small piece. It is firm, rich, heavy for its size. When eaten, it softens slowly. Fat warms the mouth. Dried meat gives depth. Berries, if present, add a faint sharpness, like summer remembering itself through the dark. The body understands before the mind explains. This is fuel. This is stored fire. Honestly, the first time someone calls food warmth, it may sound like poetry. In winter, it is not poetry. It is biology. Without enough fat and calories, clothing fails. Shelter fails. A person can sit beneath perfect hides and still grow cold from inside. Heat must be made by the body, and the body needs fuel. This is why preserved food is part of the heating system. It is as important as the lamp, the robe, the wall, the stone. Nearby, someone prepares a hot drink. Pine needles or spruce tips may be steeped. Cedar may be used in some traditions. Birch bark, willow bark, roots, resin, chaga, and many other plants belong to different indigenous medicinal systems across different lands. These medicines are not random forest guesses. They come from generations of observation, experiment, story, caution, success, and loss. A cup is passed. Steam rises into the cold. The smell is sharp and green, a forest opening inside the nose. The drink warms the hands first, then the mouth, then the chest. Some teas provide nutrients. Some soothe. Some support the body in illness. Some carry spiritual meaning as well as physical use. When gathered properly, plants are often approached with gratitude, prayer, or protocol. Though practices differ among peoples and should not be treated as one universal rule, the forest is not a storehouse in the modern sense. It is a relationship. A person takes, but also thanks, knows the season, knows how much to leave, knows which bark can be cut and which tree must be spared, knows that medicine gathered without respect may still work in one sense, but has failed in another. Then the snow itself becomes text. An elder walks ahead and touches it with a stick. The surface breaks differently in one place than another. Here it is wind-packed. There it is soft. Over there, a crust strong enough for a fox, but not for a person. A darker line marks where the snow has thinned over brush. A shine suggests ice beneath. A hollow sound warns of a pocket. To an untrained eye, the landscape is blank. To the elder, it is written. Snow has texture, sound, weight, scent, and mood. It squeaks in bitter cold. It dulls under damp air. It crusts after thaw and freeze. It drifts differently around stones, trees, old tracks, river banks, shelters, and animal paths. People who travel winterlands do not simply see snow. They read it with feet, ears, knees, fingers, and memory. A child follows. The child steps where the elder steps. Too close at first. Then, more carefully, the elder stops and points to a faint depression. Animal track. Old or new? The child guesses. The elder shakes the head, then presses the snow near the mark, showing how the edge has softened. Not fresh. The lesson is quiet, but the stakes are real. A fresh track might mean food. An old one might waste precious strength. The child nods. This is school without walls. The lesson continues toward a frozen river. Ice lies over it, but the river has not stopped being a river. Beneath the surface, water moves. Some ice is safe. Some only appears safe. People learn the voice of ice, the color, the kind of crack that warns, the kind that merely complains. A frozen river can become a road, a fishing place, a path between camps. It can also open without forgiveness. Knowledge makes the difference, though never perfectly. No knowledge removes all risk. That humility is part of survival, too. Snowshoes wait near a tree. Their frames are shaped from wood, curved and bent, laced with rawhide in patterns that spread weight across snow. Different regions create different shapes. Long, narrow ones for open travel, broader ones for softer snow, shorter ones for woods and brush. The design belongs to terrain. A snowshoe is a conversation between foot and snow. You watch someone bind them on. The rawhide tightens. The foot settles. The first step is careful, because snowshoes ask the body for a different rhythm. Too narrow a stride and they catch. Too high a lift and energy is wasted. The walker learns to glide, to let the frame float the body across a surface that would otherwise swallow each step to the knee or thigh. Without them, travel becomes exhaustion. With them, winter opens. The snowshoe track stretches away across the white ground like handwriting. Each step wide, deliberate, slightly lifted. Behind it come others, following the packed trail. A path is born from repetition. Tomorrow, that track may guide another traveler, or snow may cover it. Winter keeps and erases with equal calm. Movement is heat. A person walking well warms through effort, but effort can become sweat, and sweat can become danger when the body stops. So the traveler manages pace, clothing, breath, and rest. Open the garment a little when climbing. Close it before wind finds the chest. Brush away snow before it melts. Eat before hunger becomes weakness. Drink before thirst thickens the blood. These are small decisions, but winter is built from small decisions. The group moves through trees. Pine branches hold snow in soft burdens. A raven calls once. The air smells resinous and clean. Somewhere under the snow, roots sleep. Somewhere in a cache behind them, food waits. Somewhere ahead, a trail leads to another camp, another river bend, another place where people know how to make warmth from what the land has given. The story of survival is not still. It walks. It stores. It reads. It drinks medicine. It eats summer and winter. It ties rawhide to the feet and crosses white distances. By afternoon, the group returns. Snowshoes are shaken clean. Bindings are checked. Food is brought inside. The cache is closed again, covered carefully so the cold continues its work without inviting the wrong mouths. The tea is warmed. A child repeats the lesson about the old track, half proud, half unsure. An elder pretends not to smile, which is a very old method of teaching. Inside the shelter, the food is divided. A piece of pemmican, some dried fish, a drink hot enough to fog the eyes. The body receives them with a gratitude deeper than words. Heat starts inside now, not from lamp or stone, but from fuel becoming strength. Fingers loosen. Thoughts clear. The world feels less hostile when the body is fed. This is why winter preparation is sacred in the practical sense. It turns time into survival. Summer berries become winter sweetness. Autumn hunts become midwinter heat. Roots dug before frost become medicine when coughs come. Fish caught in running water become food under ice. Moss gathered dry becomes bedding. Bark peeled with care becomes container. Medicina. Roof. Wall. Signal. Tool. Nothing stands alone. The lamp needs oil. The body needs fat. The snowshoe needs rawhide. The cache needs memory. The trail needs someone to walk it. The child needs an elder. The elder needs the child to learn. This is how winter knowledge remains alive, not as a written manual, but as a chain of actions performed correctly at the right time. Evening returns. The shelter fills again with the smell of warmed food, pinata, oil lamp, hide, and snow melting from clothing. Outside, the cache is invisible once more. The tracks begin to blur under new powder. The river speaks under ice. The forest darkens with its medicines held deep inside bark and root. You sit near the low light and feel the day settle into the body. The cold has not been defeated, but food has entered. Medicine has been gathered. Snow has been red. A path has been crossed. Somewhere under the white ground, summer is still waiting, wrapped, remembered, and protected for the next hard hour. Before sleep, the elder touches the cache marker again in memory, even though it is outside and hidden. This is not worry. It is a bet. The mind walks the route one more time. Past the bent pine, over the shallow rise, 3 steps from the stone, under the drift where the wind makes a smooth back. Food sleeps there, and because it sleeps there, people can sleep here. A storm may cover the signs by morning. Animals may test the snow. A thaw may change the crust. So memory must be stronger than sight. The land is not a cupboard with a door and handle. It is a living place that hides and reveals according to weather. To store food in it is to enter an agreement with snow, earth, scent, and time. The child who learned the track today watches the elder and understands only a little. That is enough. A little understanding is how deep knowledge begins. The trail does not end when the food is brought home. Winter has many roads, though a stranger might see only white ground and dark trees. A frozen river becomes a path. A line of snowshoe prints becomes a message. A dog team moves like breath across the open distance. Smoke rises where people wait. A broken twig, a carved stick, a mark in snow, a gesture made across the wind. All of these can speak when the air is too cold for long words. You walk with the group as evening lowers over the land. The snowshoes make a soft, dragging rhythm. Lift, slide, settle. Lift, slide, settle. The body learns the pattern or grows tired quickly. Snow that would swallow a bare foot now holds the traveler up. The rawhide web bends, takes weight, releases it, and leaves behind a wide print that another person can follow. Behind you, the trail darkens slightly where many steps have pressed it down. Movement becomes a kind of warmth. Not reckless movement. Not panic. A steady pace. Enough to wake the blood, not enough to soak the clothing. The people know when to open a collar, when to close a robe, when to stop before sweat turns dangerous. In deep winter, even effort must be governed. Too little motion, and cold settles into the limbs. Too much, and dampness prepares its own trap. A pouch of pemmican is opened when the group pauses near a line of trees. The food is dense, dark, and plain. Dried meat pounded fine, fat rendered and mixed in, sometimes berries folded through for sharpness and strength. It looks small for what it carries, but a small portion holds the labor of hunters, cutters, dryers, pounders, fire tenders, and those who knew how to store fat without wasting it. A piece is passed to you. It softens in the mouth slowly. Fat warms first. Meat follows. If berries are there, they rise after a moment, a faint, bright memory of summer. You understand why people carried it on journeys, why traders valued it, why winter travel depended on foods that could survive cold, time, and movement. This is not a snack in the modern sense. It is stored endurance. Some foods are humble until the weather explains them. Pemmican is one of those foods. It is a map of the year compressed into a handful. It says, the hunt succeeded. The fat was saved. The winter road can continue. The group moves again. The sky darkens early. In northern winter, daylight is a brief visitor, polite but not committed. The trees gather shadow. Snow holds the last blue light. Somewhere ahead, a camp waits, and with it, the story fire. Winter is the season when stories grow long. In many native traditions, stories are tied to season. Some are told only when snow lies on the ground, when certain beings sleep, when the work of gathering and planting has paused, when children and adults can sit together in the long dark and listen. The exact rules differ by people and place, and we should not flatten them into one custom. But the pattern is clear enough. Winter gives time to memory. You enter the shelter as the fire or lamp makes a low circle of light. The storyteller does not shout. There is no need. The room leans inward. Children settle near the hides. Dogs curl at the edge. Tools lie in laps. Because listening and working can belong to the same hour. A woman smooths a seam. A man repairs a snowshoe binding. An elder warms hands and waits until the room has become quiet enough. Then the story begins. It may be funny at first. A trickster too hungry for his own good. An animal who thinks itself clever and discovers that snow has better judgment. Children laugh because fear is easier to remember when it wears a foolish coat. Then the story turns. A storm ignored. A warning dismissed. A track read poorly. A boast punished. A patient child rewarded. A careless traveler humbled by wind. These are not merely entertainments. They are instructions wearing fur. A story can teach where not to walk. It can teach when to share. It can teach why one does not mock cold, waste food, ignore elders, or travel alone when the sky speaks in a certain color. It lets dread become knowledge and lets children sleep after learning what the dark contains. The voice lowers. The room grows still. Outside, the snow touches the shelter with faint sounds, so soft that the ear invents them before hearing them. The children grow heavy-eyed. One tries to stay awake, because the best part may still come. The head nods anyway. A dog sighs, and the elder smiles without stopping the tale. Honestly, that is one of the gentlest images of winter survival. A child losing the battle against sleep while a dangerous lesson becomes a safe story in the warmth. At dawn, the story world turns to ice. A group goes toward a frozen lake. The surface shines pale beneath the morning sky. It looks sealed, but those who know it understand that ice is not a lid. It is a skin. Water moves beneath. Fish move beneath. Danger moves beneath too. The elders read the ice. Color, sound, thickness, snow cover, old cracks, new pressure ridges. The way a step travels through the surface. A frozen lake speaks in dull knocks, sharp snaps, deep groans. Some sounds are ordinary. Some are warnings. The listener must know the difference. A hole is cut. Not carelessly. Carefully. With tools of bone, antler, stone, copper where available, or later metal after trade. Ice chips gather in a ring. The dark water opens below, black and alive. Breath clouds over it. Someone lowers a line. A hook may be made from bone or copper. A lure or decoy may move beneath the surface, shaped to tempt fish toward the opening. The waiting is quiet. Ice fishing is patience turned into food. The body must stay warm, but not clumsy. Hands must work, but not stiffen. The eyes watch the dark water. The ears listen to the ice. A child crouches near an adult, learning how still a person can be when hunger is part of the lesson. A fish flashes silver. For one instant, the lake gives back light. The fish is taken with skill and gratitude. Some traditions include offerings or words of thanks to the water, the fish, or the powers that allow taking. Practices differ, but the underlying relationship matters. Food is not treated as nothing. It comes from somewhere. It costs something. It must be received properly. The catch will feed bodies. The bones may become tools. The skin may have use. The lesson remains with the child. Do not assume ice is dead. Do not assume silence is empty. Do not assume food appears because you are hungry. Winter teaches through repetition. The day continues into medicine gathering. A careful person cuts birch bark where it can be taken without killing the tree. Another gathers evergreen needles for tea. Willow bark may be remembered for pain. Chaga may be cut from birch where it grows in cold forests. Resin maisal, soothe, or burn. Each plant belongs to its own people, place, and use. The forest is not a cabinet full of supplies. It is a living relation. People learn by instruction, by observation, by story, by correction, and sometimes by the hard teacher called mistake. A cup of evergreen tea steams in the afternoon. The smell is bright and sharp. It cuts through smoke and hide and snow. A person drinks slowly. The warmth enters the hands first, then the mouth, then the chest. In winter, Medicine and comfort often share the same cup. When the aurora appears that night, people look upward. Green light moves over the sky like a curtain stirred by invisible hands. Across different indigenous traditions, the northern lights are understood in many ways as spirits, dancers, massage, games, fetus, or signs. These beliefs are culturally specific, and no one version belongs to all. But the emotional truth is broad. The sky is not empty. Winter darkness has presence. To name the cold is to make relationship with it. Frost may be imagined as a being, wind as a voice, snow as a visitor, a teacher, a trickster, a danger, a helper. Such personifications are not childish. They are one way of living with forces too large to control. If you cannot command winter, you can learn its moods. You can speak of it with respect. You can tell children how it behaves. Dogs bark in the distance. The sound carries cleanly through frozen air. A sled or travois route may be opening between camps. In some northern and plains communities, dogs helped move goods, pull loads, guard, hunt, and carry warmth into the sleeping circle. Their breath is visible before their bodies appear. White bursts in front of dark shapes. Harnesses creak. Paws press into packed trail. The dogs lean forward with serious purpose, as if they too understand the work of winter. A traveler arrives with news. Perhaps trade goods. Perhaps a message. Perhaps a warning about the river ice. Frozen rivers can become roads, joining camps that mud and brush might separate in summer. Travel networks do not vanish in winter. They change form. People follow ice, packed trails, snowshoe routes, dog paths, and memory. Communication may travel by messenger, smoke, reflected light, marks on wood, carved sticks, gestures across distance, and signs known to those who share the system. A piece of information can be as warming as food. There is safety in knowing who is nearby, where game has moved, which crossing is weak, which camp has illness, which family needs help. Winter makes distance dangerous, but it also makes community necessary. Near the fire, moccasins are repaired. Footwear holds another library of winter knowledge. Soles layered for the kind of ground. Seams placed away from pressure. Grass or moss tucked inside to insulate and absorb moisture. Beadwork or quill work carrying identity. A pattern that belongs to a family, a people, a place. The moccasin is soft, but it is not simple. It must feel the ground and protect from it at the same time. A worn pair steams faintly near heat. Not too close. Heat can damage leather. Drying must be watched. A child tries to rush it and is corrected. Wet footwear in cold country is serious. Snow enters through small failures. Water finds seams. A foot chilled too far can stop travel, and stopped travel can become danger quickly. The needle moves through hide. In the same room, a story continues. Dogs sleep, fish cooks, tea cools. Outside, the aurora fades. The winter world has become less empty because every part of it has been named, used, respected, or watched. Movement, food, story, medicina, dogs, trade, river, footwear, all of them are pieces of one survival web. No fireplace sits at the center. The center is knowledge moving among people. A child with sleepy eyes hears the final line of the story and asks if the frost spirit really walks near the trees. The elder answers carefully, perhaps yes, perhaps only when children forget to listen. The child pulls the hide closer and looks toward the dark entrance. The adults exchange the small glance of people who know a lesson has landed where it should. Fear has become attention. Attention may become survival. The night grows calm again. The moccasins are set to dry. The hooks are put away. The remaining pemmican is wrapped. Dogs settle with noses under tails. The storyteller rests the voice. Outside, the frozen river lies under the stars. No longer only ice, but road, pantry, warning, mirror, in memory. You lie back under the hides and feel the day inside you. The snowshoe rhythm, the dense food, the story fire, the black water under ice, the green medicine tea, the dogs leaning into the trail, the repaired moccasin waiting for another morning. Winter is still vast beyond the shelter. It has lost none of its power, yet it feels less like emptiness now. It is filled with signs, filled with routes, filled with relations. And that is why the people sleep. But not because the cold is gone, because the cold has been understood well enough for this night. By the last stretch of winter, even children know the cold has a personality. They do not always fear it. Sometimes they chase one another through it, falling into drifts, rising with red cheeks, shouting into air so cold that laughter turns white. They slide on ice. They throw snow. They practice balance without knowing that balance may one day keep them alive on a river crossing. They build small shelters in play, copying what adults have built for survival. They learn to fall without panic, to rise quickly, to brush snow from clothing before it melts. This is not only play. It is training made joyful. A child who learns snow by laughing may later read it without fear. A child who tumbles safely may later travel safely. A child who builds a tiny wall of snow for fun begins to understand how wind moves and where a body can hide from it. Winter games are not separate from winter knowledge. They are how the knowledge enters the bones before anyone calls it instruction. The camp watches them with a mixture of amusement and attention. An elder corrects a child who steps too close to thin ice. Another laughs when a boy falls backward into powder and disappears except for 2 kicking feet. Someone calls him a snow spirit with no sense of direction. He rises, indignant and proud, covered in white from hood to heel. Even in the hardest season, humor survives. That matters. A winter without humor becomes heavier than snow. Laughter does not warm fingers, not directly, but it warms the space between people. It keeps fear from becoming the only voice in the shelter. It lets children love the season that could harm them. It gives adults a reason to smile after counting food stores too many times. Inside, the slower work continues. Hands mend, carve, bend, sharpen, polish, salt, stitch. Winter is not empty time. It is interior time. A bow is repaired. A snowshoe frame is checked. Rawhide webbing is tightened. Moccasins are patched. A bone needle is smoothed. A handle is carved to fit the hand that will use it. A robe is decorated. A basket is mended. A child is shown how to twist fiber without breaking it. These tasks do not roar. They click, scrape, rub, whisper. A bead touches another bead with a faint sound. A knife passes along antler. A sinew thread pulls through hide. A piece of wood is turned in the hand. Judged by touch more than sight. Smoke and lamplight move over everything softly. Outside, snow falls. Inside, people prepare for futures the snow has hidden. Winter rest is not idleness. It is stored readiness. In warm seasons, movement is often outward. Hunting, planting, gathering, traveling, fishing, trading. In deep winter, much work comes inward. Stories are told. Tools are repaired. Plans are made. Children learn by watching. Elders speak more because the hands have time to listen. A community that appears still from a distance may be preparing every object needed for the thaw. A woman lays out. The colors are small points of life in the muted room. Red, white, black, blue, yellow, whatever the materials and trade routes allow. She does not place them carelessly. Pattern matters. Beauty matters. A decorated object is not less useful. It may be more deeply useful because it carries identity, memory, bride, and relationship. A moccasin with beadwork still protects the foot. It also says who made it, who wore it, what hands cared enough to make survival beautiful. This is another answer to winter. Beauty is warmth for the spirit. Not a soft saying. A practical one. Long cold can shrink the mind. Snow can erase color. Hunger can narrow thought. Craft returns shape, pattern, color, purpose. A carved antler handle catching low firelight can become a small resistance against blankness. A painted hide can hold a story. A toy can teach. A necklace can remember a family line. These are not extras after survival. They are part of surviving whole. Outside, children are still playing. One drags a smaller child on a flat piece of wood or hide. Another practices hitting a target in the snow. Aim matters for games. Aim matters for hunting. Counting turns matters for fairness. Fairness matters for living close. A game can teach the hand, the eye, the temper, and the social rule all at once. A girl builds a small wall of snow, then tests where the wind deposits powder around it. She may not think of this as learning. Her hands learn anyway. Later, the children are called inside. Snow clings to their clothing. Adults brush it away before it melts. Mittens are checked. Feet are checked. Wetness is searched for with seriousness. Children protest because children often believe they are entirely fine until 5 breaths after they are not. An adult ignores the protest and changes what must be changed. Care can be stern. Winter care often is. The camp uses signals too, small and temporary technologies that vanish almost as soon as they serve their purpose. Smoke rising straight or slanted, a branch bent a certain way, a carved stick left where someone will see it, tracks placed deliberately, reflected light from ice or water, a gesture across distance, a bird call imitated or avoided, snow marked, then covered by the next wind. These signals are fragile. That does not make them weak. A message does not need to last forever. It needs to be understood at the right time. A smoke line may warn or summon. A bent twig may guide. A mark in snow may say, "We went this way." A carved stick may carry memory between people who know the code. Such technologies do not fill museums easily, because they vanish by design. They belong to weather, not cabinets. I have always found that humbling. The most important inventions are not always the ones that survive in stone. Some disappear because they were used well. A shelter made of snow can also vanish. In Arctic worlds, snow houses and snow structures show one of the most refined relationships between cold and survival. Snow blocks cut and set with care can form walls that trap air and slow wind. Ice or translucent snow may serve as a window, letting dim light enter. Inside, a small lamp can change the space dramatically. The wall itself is cold, but it protects the air within from the worse cold outside. To a stranger, snow as shelter seems impossible. To those who know it, snow can be building material, insulation, windbreak, water source, signal, danger, and road. Again, winter is not one thing. Near the edge of camp, someone polishes a tool of bone or antler until it glows softly. Another shapes a piece of ice for a practical use, perhaps clearing a window surface, perhaps testing a cut. Children watch light pass through frozen material and make faces behind it. The ice turns their features strange and wide. They laugh, and the adults let them, because beauty and usefulness do not need to stand apart. The day grows quiet, not silent. Quiet. A good winter camp has many small sounds. Scraping, breathing, dogs shifting, snow falling from a branch, a soft instruction, a child whispering after being told to be still, a tool set down, a pot moved, the lamp wick adjusted. These sounds create safety because they are known. When a sound changes, people notice. The cold remains outside, but the camp is not passive. It is doing 100 things at once: holding heat, drying clothing, watching food, teaching children, repairing tools, honoring stories, reading sky, feeding dogs, guarding embers, making beauty saving strength, letting the body rest when rest is useful, moving when movement is needed. This is the answer the whole story has been giving. Native peoples did not survive deadly winters without fireplaces because they had one secret trick. They survived because the entire world became a hearth. The earth held warmth. Snow-sealed walls. Hides trapped breath. Lamps burned oil. Stones kept heat. Food stored summer inside fat. Dogs pulled and guarded. Stories carried instruction. Medicine rose from bark and needle. Snowshoes opened roads. Rivers became paths. Children learned by play. Elders remembered what the weather had done before. Warmth was not an object. Warmth was a relationship. It moved among people, animals, materials, seasons, and land. As night returns, the camp gathers inward again. Tools are set aside. Wet things are placed where they can dry without burning. Food is wrapped. The dogs curl into their places. Children grow drowsy after the long day, their faces still bright from cold and laughter. Elders sit near the low light, watching without appearing to watch. Adults make the last adjustments before sleep, closing gaps, checking lamps, feeling the air near the entrance. The snow begins again. Softly this time. Each flake lands without urgency. The world outside loses its hard edges. Tracks blur. Branches bow. The shelters become rounded shapes beneath a white covering. Smoke lifts from one opening, then another, then disappears into the falling snow. Inside one shelter, a child asks whether the cold can hear stories. An elder answers that everything hears if a person speaks well enough. That may be a joke, or a teaching, or both. The best winter answers often are. The story, fire, lowers. A lamp remains. Hides are drawn close. A mother tucks a child toward the warmer center. A dog sighs. Someone checks a pair of moccasins one last time and sets them where morning hands will find them. A carved toy lies near the wall. A snowshoe frame rests above, repaired and ready. No fireplace burns. Still, the shelter is not empty of heat. It is held in all the ways the story has shown. In the earth wall, in the hidden stone, in the fat that feeds lamp and body, in the robe over the sleepers, in the breath shared under hide, in the food stored beneath snow, in the memory of trails, in the hands that know when to open and when to close, in the child who learned to read a track today, in the elder who will tell another story tomorrow. The cold outside remains vast. It is not defeated. It does not apologize. It will return at dawn, at noon, at night, in wind, in ice, in hunger, in numb fingers, in danger hidden under beauty. But it is no longer only an enemy. It is known, named, watched, answered. That is the deepest form of survival. Not control. Relationship. You lie back in the shelter and feel the world soften around you. The bedding is layered. The air is close. The lamp is low. Snow taps the outer wall so quietly that it seems almost imagined. Someone near you is already asleep. Another person murmurs a final sentence from the story, then falls silent. The camp breathes. One shelter, then another. Dogs dreaming. Children warm. Tools waiting. Food hidden. Trails covered for now, but remembered. The winter world folds itself over the people like a great white cloak. Beneath it, small human warmth remains. Not loud, not careless, not wasteful. Warmth made from respect, from craft, from stored seasons, from shared breath, from the steady refusal to treat cold as empty. The candle beside us is almost out now. The imagined snow keeps falling. The camp grows distant, but its lesson stays near. A hearth does not always look like a fireplace. Sometimes a hearth is a circle of bodies. Sometimes a cache under snow. Sometimes a lamp fed by oil. Sometimes a story told at the correct season. Sometimes a child laughing while learning how not to fall through ice. The last light lowers. The shelters disappear into the white night. Inside them, warmth survives in many small forms, and each form remembers the hands that made it. Let the wind move beyond the walls. Let the snow cover the tracks. Let the dogs sleep. Let the stories rest until tomorrow. The cold remains outside. The knowledge remains within. Good night.